Q&A. I guess you guys know the panelists here. I don't know if y'all want to introduce yourselves. All right, they're shy now. But we'll go ahead with our first question. Well, I introduce them. This is Ishmael Lowry. Let's give it up for Ishmael. And Miss Danielle Irwin. Let's give it up for her. That's good, that's good. So what's our first question?
How do you recognize a Jezebel spirit?
I would say the number one thing is to know what a Jezebel spirit is, and it's a controlling spirit. Control, by definition, means, or manipulate, is to provide an environment or to use words to control a person to do what you're saying. The Bible says it's like witchcraft. Witchcraft is using lips, hips, words, personality, lies, truth, to make a person do what you maliciously want them to do. So the best way to recognize something that's controlling is if it's making you do something that you consciously don't want to do. If a man is trying to live right and there's something about the woman that's trying to manipulate him to get away from what he values or he has the standards of, that's a Jezebel spirit. And Jezebel spirits are not just for women, it's for men too. We can be controlling that nature. So if you see someone that is doing something that's trying to make you bend or make you break or make you go a little bit further than what you naturally desire, then that's a Jezebel spirit. You can recognize it basically. That's why I tell people, make sure that you have the discerning spirit about yourself. The best thing that saves me is that I can feel it a mile away. You can tell when a person is just not right. And the thing is, the more that you become quiet and more silenced in your spiritual walk, or your spirit becomes more faint, it's very hard to sense. And if you can't sense negative energy, if you can't sense demonic energy, then you'll be easily trapped, because that Jezebel is not a little small little demon, or it's not like a little small little personality trait. It's not something that's just, oh, that's cute. It's something that's literally malicious, something that's literally that's camouflage. You can't really tell what it is if you're caught up in the ambiance of it. So the best way to recognize is say, okay, is this person making me do something? Is this person, you can tell by their face when they start crying, but they're not really crying, or they fake a tantrum. You know when when a man do something, she'll start acting a certain way, or a man that wants a woman to do something, they'll start acting a certain way. They know the best way to avoid that is do not give that spirit what it wants. If that spirit is trying to make you sleep with it, or that's making you sleep with that person that's trying to make you do something that you don't have, it will continuously work on you if you let it. But the moment that you're resisting it, then that spirit it gets quiet for a while. It watches you for a while, and it'll try to control you another way. So that's my 2 cents about that. Did you want to add something to it? Okay.
I also think it's just short that it's somebody that is more so of a taker than a giver. Somebody that's more so selfish than selfless. So you just want to watch out for that. Just the little tendencies. Josh would talk about weeks past unequally yoked, meaning that somebody's always giving in a relationship and the other person's always taking. It's not half and half. And what happens when you give so much of yourself, you start to break your own back trying to take care of yourself and take care of somebody else as well. So, watch out for the person that's always taking and not giving. So.
And it's like an 80-20 rule. Be very careful that you don't be the person that gives 80% and they give 20%. That happens in most relationships and more situations where a person is given the bulk of something while someone's only giving 20% to it. So make sure that you're with someone that's like he says, a giver and not just a taker, that knows how to balance it between that relationship. Because if you don't have that balance, then you'll be suffocating in the process, because that person's draining you dry, but never deposit anything in you as well.
Being a woman of God and waiting for companionship, when you do find that person and you are sexually attracted, how do you create boundaries to not hinder the relationship with sex?
Okay. Boundaries are important. We're all sexual creatures, male, female. Sex is not sex is a gift from God. It's not something that's negatively something that's negative. It's not. When it's outside of its parameters, it becomes negative. So I want to make sure that you understand that sex is good, sex is beneficial, but it's only safe and it's best in a relationship, not a relationship, in a marriage. With that being said, if both people are honest to say, you know what, hey, I have a sexual past. You know what, girl, you just looking good. You look at the young man saying, you just smelling good right now. You got to ask yourself, okay, where am I the least aware? Where am I the most vulnerable? If I always put myself in a situation where I'm vulnerable, where I'm not thinking up here, or I'm too tired to even try to process, then I am more reluctantly to fall. Satan developed a system where he pushed us in corners. What that means is, how can I put you in a place where you have the most potential to fail? How can I put you in a place where you are emotionally, spiritually, and physically unable, inept to handle the pressure of it? What he does is, how can I put you in an environment that you're not strong enough to handle the pressure of? So if he knows that, okay, the movie was cute, nothing happened the first time. Second time the movie goes off, you start having a conversation, nothing happens then. He understands, how can I get you comfortable where you're not aware, to the point to where your boundaries and your sense of awareness decrease at that moment. When your senses and your awareness decrease, then you are more reluctant and more vulnerable to fall. So if I'm in a position where I don't want to have sex and I don't want to get in a place where I cause my sister to stumble, I got to make sure, okay, what is this person more vulnerable to? I don't care if she say, well, I like to be, can you cuddle with me? You're not safe there, girl. I'm not safe there. So as the man, I got to sit there and say, just as much as I want to cuddle with you, just as much as you want to cuddle with me. But I know for a fact, if I put myself in that situation over time, if not that night, I will fall. So my boundary has to be, and I have 3 levels of friendship. 3 levels. Level 1, let's say let's talk about me. Well, let's talk about it. No, I ain't going to talk about you. Let's talk about me. I don't want to put your business. I'm talking about me. Let me talk about me. Level 1 friendship says, I'm friends. Every woman in this room, I am somewhat your brother in Christ. I'm a friend. Somewhere in this room or somewhere amongst the women in my life or women that I come in contact, one will pop up. Level 2. So level 1 is all women I'm have connections with, not sexual, nothing like that, but they're my sisters, family, etc. Level 1. Over time, a girl will pop into level 2. That means, whoa, she's exclusive. That means she's special. So level 2 friendship says, okay, hold on, this is serious. I got to take this even more serious now, so I want to lead this girl on. So what happens in my level 2 friendship, I say, okay, girl, I know I'm attracted to you, attracted to me. Let's talk. Because I don't want to be in this if God did not confirm it. What happens is we skip level 1, level 2, and get to level 3. And what happens is we don't even have no friendship at all. So what happens is we never took time to develop, took time to grow, to even learn each other, to the point to where now we learn each other after the sheets are pulled off. Now we learn each other after the clothes are pulled off. Now I know you after it doesn't happen. But if I had enough strength in who I am and had enough patience in me, I don't got to see you with your clothes. I don't got to see you in the moments of your vulnerability. I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to see if this is what God has for me. And when we get so caught up in skipping friendships, skipping stages, then we have no boundaries. If we have no boundaries, we'll do anything. And if we're willing to do anything, then will we stand for anything? And that's a question you have to ask. So the best way to establish boundaries is this. I know me. I'm trying to know you. When I know you, as a man, as a person, we both lead together, which means, okay, we can't be at your house at this time. If I know that this kiss leads to sex, I can't kiss you. If I know that a touch can lead to this, I can't touch you. If I know that I can't be alone with you, I got to be in groups. You have to establish your boundaries that's tailored to your deriving or developing friendship. If you don't develop boundaries according to that friendship, then you won't have no friendship at all. And then when the sex is no longer good, you have nothing to make that relationship last. So that's my 2 cents on that. You want to add anything to it? Oh, there you go.
Well, I would just say, I think when a lot of people hear boundaries, I think they kind of struggle with that because boundaries sound so intense, and it sounds like, I think when a lot of people hear boundaries, they think you're keeping something out. But if you flip it and you look at boundaries as a way to protect what's inside, I think we can kind of get along with the whole idea of boundaries a little bit better. So, I think whenever I think about, having been in relationships, I'm like, well, I'm not going to have sex with you. I'm going to touch you. I'm not going to do anything with you. And I found myself constantly telling him what he could not do rather than telling myself what I could not do. So when I looked at myself and said, okay, Danielle, what are your triggers? When you hear a certain song, how does it make you feel? When you wear a certain outfit, how does it make you feel? When you hang out after a certain time, when you watch this, when you do this, how does it affect me? More so than how does his actions affect you, but how do I affect me? And how does the way that I'm affecting myself, how is it going to affect him, and how is that going to affect everybody's boundaries and what we're all trying to do here? So I think if you really look at yourself honestly and say, okay, what about this song, what about this music, what about this movie, what about this outfit, what about me can put me in a situation where I'm going to end up doing something that I don't want to do. Don't always look at the other person like they're trying to get in, but look at what's in you that may be trying to get out. Okay. The productive wait for one's husband can seem lengthy, and during that time, one can become extremely self-reliant. How can you prevent that or decrease the level of independence?
Let me look at that. The productive wait for one's husband can seem lengthy, and during that time, one can become extremely self-reliant. How can you prevent that or decrease that level of independence? Gotcha. No one is independent. 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be talking about a message. The title of it is Miss Interdependent. Interdependent means we're all dependent on something. So therefore, none of us are independent. So when we declare our independence, we are actually saying we should go off into an island by ourselves because we're not dependent on anything. But our actuality, we are dependent on air to breathe, dependent on water to survive. We're all dependent on each other. With that understanding is, as I'm waiting on God, I'm not becoming more self-reliant. I'm becoming more selfless. So while I'm serving God, I'm not getting so caught up on me. This is my platform. This is my philosophy. This is my way of thinking. This is what I want to do. This is whatever I want to do in life. I become so more consumed in God that I'm so caught up in doing what he does, which gets rid of my self-reliance because I'm dependent on him. When I remove God and I remove and I remove anything that I say that I'm not dependent on, then I will become self-reliant. But self-reliance has no weight in a person who's already dependent on God, because how can you be self-reliant if you depend on God? My dependence on God teaches me how to be dependent one day on a wife. Not dependent as I lean all of my weight on, but I got to lean something on somebody because I'm connected, interlocked, connected. I'm dependent on Ishmael for what he needs to do at Unplug. I'm dependent on Danielle. I'm dependent on Carl and DJT, and I'm dependent on different people to even make this thing last. So I can't sit there and say, well, let me go run the camera. I got to run back there, run the camera. I got to run in to do the audio. I'm dependent on people. Anything that's self-reliant will self-destruct because it always needs something to make it what it is. If there was no dependence on anything, then where would you be? If it wasn't for your mom and dad doing what they're doing, you wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for God engineering your life, where would you be today? And imagine someone that says without God. That's why the greatest thing that scares people in hell is the thing that torments people the most in hell is not fire, it's not brimstone, it's not demons, it's the absence of God. The Bible says the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Where do you see weeping and gnashing of teeth in fire? You don't weep and gnash teeth in fire. You weep and gnash teeth in isolation. The weeping and the gnashing of the teeth means that there's no God. When there's no God, there's no me. So the thing is, if I'm all in God, then there is me. Then I find my worth and my significance in him, which means it'll keep me from being self-reliant. So if you're waiting on that husband, don't get so caught up on my self-esteem or my self-reliance. Be so caught up on, am I serving God and getting rid of myself? So as I'm getting rid of myself, serving God, when I meet that person, I know exactly by nature. See, it's not by book smarts or principles or points saying, okay, when he does this, I got to make sure I do this. You're looking at your book, oh, chapter 6 says, when he gets mad, I got to do this. No. By nature, you'll be able to. Because you become more like God. Not God with no little g, no nothing like that. None of us is God. But what I'm saying is his nature becomes a part of you. So when you are in that woman and wife role, it'll be natural. You'll know what to do. When a man gets in that husband role, it won't be like, I got to go check my book. Am I going to pass this test? No. You will naturally, and even if you mess up, you got repentance and say, you know what, I apologize. So there's no self-reliance in anything because we're all interdependent on something. Anything that's self-reliant will self-destruct. And that's my point on that. Oh. You said no? Oh, okay. I took your point. Did you want to elaborate on your point? Dog, you know you be getting them little. Interdependent was my word. Don't worry about it, dog. Be here next week. Week after next.
All right, this is our last question. Okay.
Did you want to add something?
Okay. How can you regain your man's trust if you have abused it in the past?
Okay, that's a good one. But you know how to put the right questions last, don't you? Think you Vanna White? Not Vanna White, but Barbara Walters. Okay, how can you regain your man's trust if you... Barbara Walters? No, okay, never mind. I'll just read the question. Okay, how can... Roxy. No, not Roxy either. Okay, how can you regain your man's trust if you abuse it in the past? It takes a long time to gain trust and moments to lose it. When a person loses a man's trust, or a person's trust, so this can be universal, male and female, honesty is important. Owning what you did is important. If something happens in a situation with me and my future wife or whenever that happens, and I lose her trust, I just lost everything, almost. Because when you have a person's trust, that's some real stuff. You have the most valuable parts of them, pieces of them. And the moment you open that vault and everything splashes out, you just lost everything. Now, in her mind, in his mind, he's looking at you like, okay, how do I not know? The biggest thing, that's why the devil loves for you to get in a place where you cheat or you mess up or you mishandle people's trust, because it's very hard to get that trust back. But the best way to regain it is owning it, going up to her, going to him, say, you know what, I messed up. This is my fault. Being honest. The next thing, you got to be consistent at doing it right. If you slip up, see, it's like a little meter. Her trust is this low now. You do well for a few months, her trust gains. Oh, okay. He's doing well. Look at him at church. Don't talk to no women. Look at him. And start looking at it like, okay. But the moment that you dip again, the more you corrode her trust over and over again, the chances are it's going to be very hard to regain it. So the best way to regain a trust that you lost is to be consistent and being foreverly. Is that a word, foreverly? Today it is. Foreverly. Anyway, you got to be a person where you say, I'm going to be consistent at what I'm doing so I can ultimately regain a trust. Now, will you ever regain it to its peak? Who knows? But that person will look at you and say, if you're willing to be honest and consistent with me, by God's grace, I can forgive you. Because a person, you can't just look at the person as failed. You got to look at the person who has the fault happen to them. See, it's not always about the person that took your trust. It's about how okay, you got to protect your trust. You can't just spill it out again. But what you can say, have I really forgave that person? Because how many times have we mismanaged God's trust? How many times have we messed up God? The money he gave in your life mismanaged. The person he gave in your life mismanaged. How many times have he done things into your life that you mismanaged, but he still forgave you? Now, forgiveness doesn't mean that you give back everything that you had before. Forgiveness says, okay, I'm going to at least allow you the opportunity to regain my trust without any type of, well, you should have did this, you should have did that. Don't, because the man going to still be frustrated trying to get your trust back. He's still going to be somewhere having the issues with his faults, and he's going to have fears because he thinks that he may not get you back, or vice versa. So every person on both sides, the other person has to be honest with themselves and consistent at doing what the opposite of what they did to lose that person's trust. But a person that has the trust that's missing has to also be willing to forgive and at least give them the opportunity to regain it back. Only by God's grace can you do it. Because when someone violates you in a way where they allow your most vulnerable things about yourself waste away in the ears of other people, and you lose that person's trust, or that person don't have your trust no more, it's tough. But with God, anything is possible. That doesn't mean, like I said, that you give everything back to that person. It's like this. Carl has said something, I think, a few weeks back. He was talking about, I can trust someone with $5. I think you said that, Carl. I can trust someone with $5, but can I really trust him with 100? Remember that analogy you told me? Yes. Did you want to say it? You want me to say it? Okay, cool. Basically what he was saying was, and what I kind of gained, what can apply here, is that you once gave a person $100 before. Squandered it. So you don't go back and give them another $100 again. You give them with 5. Are you doing well with this amount of my time now? This amount of my concern now? This little bit now. Are you doing well with this before I just give you a whole $100 next time, or all of myself again? So I hope that makes sense. If it didn't, just let me know. But is that all the questions? Did you want to add something to it? Oh, my bad, man.
Yeah. Also, on the other end, make sure you're giving your trust to the right person. If it's somebody that's always gossiping to you about other people, more than likely they're gossiping about you to other people. So you make sure you watch their track record. And like he said, just to reiterate, look at their track record. Are they staying consistent? Are they falling every week or every so often? So, and you just don't want to get yourself drugged through the dirt. You don't want to trust somebody, and then the next thing you know, you get broken or you get hurt, then you get hurt again, you keep getting hurt, and then next thing you know, you don't trust nobody. You don't want to get to that point. So basically, know who you're trusting, know who you're telling, what you're telling to. So.
Well, I would just say, it says, how can you regain your man's trust if you've abused it in the past? And, Coach Josh has said before that, the definition of abuse is to use something abnormally. And anytime that you use something abnormally, you kind of know this doesn't feel right. It's not the same. It's not right. It's abnormal. So I think when you've abused somebody's trust, you kind of have to look at yourself and you kind of have to say, what in me caused me to do this? What about me put us as a husband and wife, as a boyfriend and girlfriend? What about me put us in a situation where I felt comfortable enough to abuse his trust? And then if this is a marriage and you've abused your husband's trust, you as much as you have to ask forgiveness from him, I think it's also important that you ask forgiveness from yourself too, because especially if this is a household, this is a marriage. You abusing your husband's trust, you could have set the household off track. You could have set all different kinds of things askew because you were out of line and you were being abnormal.
That's good. She just dropped the mic like she. That's good stuff. Anybody? Any questions? As 9:28, we're going to get done in the next few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so. But if there's any questions in the audience, anybody with a question? All right. Scandal last week must have been good. Anyway, let's go ahead and pray. Anybody with any prayer requests? We'll go ahead and stop there. Let's give it up for our panel once again.